Welcome back to Digital Diary, The Adventures of a Computerized Quilter. And this is part 2 of our discussion on pricing. And we're going to get a little more detail on this show. So what are some of, let me look at my notes here for y'all. What are some of the different categories that all of us have for our pricing? Because I know I have a few, but it allows me, I have a big old section on semi-quilting that I can vary the prices depending on what the customer either wants on their quilt or how much they're willing to pay, and then we work through what we can do at that price point. So what are some of your categories? Or hey Paige, how many do you have?
I have 19. And I like I said, I started with 2, but every time something would come up, I'd add a new category. I've got 3 levels of edge to edge because of density. And then I started taking out things like the custom, if it's blocks, borders, sashing, or if it's intricate fills, then you can toss in double wedding ring is a category. I do a lot of semi-custom, like the quilt behind me, and that has a category. A page turner is a category. Basting. Then I started getting into Judy Niemeyer as a category. I have a Judy category. McKenna Ryan. You can just keep going. Keep going. I also have just a custom, so I can put a dollar amount in.
Because I know I want my customer, when they drop a quilt off and leave, that they know almost exactly what it's going to cost them. I don't want there to be a big, $100 difference or something.
I agree.
Yeah. Mine's to the penny when they drop.
So who else has a bunch of different categories?
I have a lot of different categories, and I'm enjoying hearing what you guys call your different categories, because I'm not quite as creative. I have quilt level 1, 2, 3.
Well, I found that you have to be more specific, and it helps me pick the right category. Yeah. Georgia has talked before about going back to hours, and it's real easy for me to click the wrong button. I use a software system for this. And if I have the specifics of what I'm going to do, that's easier.
That really would be. And I don't give them the exact price when they come for customs, because I tend to always burn myself if I do. I mean, it just every time. And so I always give a level up of what I think it's going to be as an estimate, and then with them knowing it cannot get higher price, but it could, if it takes me less time than I think, it could drop a little bit. And that has helped me a lot, because I always, every time I tried to do it exact, I would underestimate and get burned on that.
That's what I do when I get it. Every once in a while you get a quilt that doesn't fit categories and you've never really done it before, you're not entirely sure. So I will go up, but my customers know I'm very honest, and if it really ends up being easier, I have no problem bringing the price down, but I won't take it up. And even then, sometimes, like you said, I've been burned, like, okay, that was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But for the most part, mine have a set price. But there's still always a quilt that comes in and you have no idea exactly what it's, what the time frame is going to be, because you've not done it before.
Well, and I have a lot of ones that are like that, because that's typically what I'm doing. And a lot of times on the back end, I'll just go check my stitch count on my project to just see how many stitches that quilt really took, so that I'm kind of in the ballpark of other quilts that I've done, just to, make sure that when I'm pricing it out, it's in the same range as other things I've done.
Stitch count is very helpful. It's one thing that helped me learn to raise my prices, because I had people that brought the exact same size quilt over and over, and you start realizing that some quilts had double the stitches and they were the same size. So that tells me that I should make more money. But we also have to be careful that not every stitch is the same. And we know there are some patterns like snowflakes that are so intricate, they may not be as many stitches, but they take a long time to finish.
Wouldn't the stitches per inch go into play here?
Yes.
Definitely. Oh yeah, you stitch at 14 all the time, don't you?
Well, 13 up
13.
to 8, 13 up to 18 on some.
Yeah,
And
it
stitch
has to
in
come
point.
into play.
And I put it on the invoice so the customers know how many stitches, and it kind of impresses them. Wow, you put 785,000 stitches on it.
Well,
Yes, I did.
It adds value to what you've done. It puts a value on it. And I think it's good for them to see how much has gone into it.
One thing that I think is very important too, on those quilts that you've done where you felt like you didn't charge enough, when they leave with the quilt, I make sure and tell them that if they go and show this to their friends, who 5 of them made these same quilts, that they are not going to be getting the same price, because I let them know that I realized that I had undercharged it, but that's fine. I always stick to it, and they're happy. But I don't want them going to their guild and telling 10 people, look what she did for $300, and then
yeah, you can say this is a price and I've developed this, and so therefore it's cheaper. But now that I've developed this technique, I found it takes more time, then it's more money.
yeah.
A development price.
So, Paige, you brought something up earlier about Judy Niemeyer quilts. Do you buy patterns to fit a particular quilt? And if you do buy patterns, do you just take the price and just spread it out throughout your whole business? Or do you charge that customer for purchasing those patterns specific to that quilt?
That's a very good question. If someone tells me they want a specific pattern and I don't feel I'm going to use it again, I do make them pay for it. Otherwise, I consider that an investment in my business, and I do spend a lot of money on patterns, but I also change them and use them. So one of the ways I've found to cut down on my custom is, if something works, use it. Do it again and again and again, and the skill level goes up, the time goes down. And if I have a Judy Niemeyer pattern that I have taken apart or changed and I like it better in that area, I will use it over and over again. Detailed notes and screenshots really do help.
Christine, I know that you do a lot of your own design work for patterns that are specific to your quilts. Do you consider that time in your pricing, or just the time that it takes to stitch it out?
I do consider it as part of my time. And typically I don't charge by the hour, because a lot of that I would have to be tracking my hours, doing all of the computer work ahead of time, all the digitizing, all the layout. And I don't want to be tracking my time doing some of that fun work too, right? And so I find that I give a better result if I'm not constantly keeping track of how much time am I spending, that sort of thing. But I do consider it as part of the total package when I put together that price per inch. So my price per inch is higher, but then I explain it to my customers that that includes that time that I put in ahead of even getting the quilt in my studio.
Design time.
Exactly.
Well, Gina, you talked a little bit about a particular quilt that maybe a group might be doing, like at a retreat or something, and so that you get all 5 of them. Do you have a discounted rate for a whole group of people that bring in the same quilt? or do you just do them individual?
I do them individual. However, I do have a volume discount if they bring me more than 2 edge to edges at a time. I'll sometimes give them a percentage off edge to edges because I love edge to edges. And I love doing custom as well, but I find that I can do a volume discount with edge to edge quilts and still not go in the hole, where with custom, I just can't.
So do you give them a discount if they're all on the same backing?
Yes, I do. I give them a discount if they're all on the same backing.
Because I know, Paige, you charge loading fees, right?
Yes, I do. And if I can sell them a wide back and they can put 2 quilts on it, then that is their discount. I'd like to know what Georgia thinks about the volume discount. I guess that's the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, I don't do it. I just, it's pretty much you bring me a quilt and here's the price. And when I started early on, I offered some discounts. Like when you hit $500, you got 25 free, but you better do really good bookkeeping to do it. It worked. I haven't done that in years, but when you're getting started, you want ways to build customer loyalty. I did, and it was worth it. I think in the beginning, now it's not, but like I said, if you don't have good bookkeeping, they'll be saying, I'm pretty sure I hit 500, and you're like, oh no, it's actually $385 right now, so protect yourself if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and it depends on where you're at your business. I'll open a bag and it'll have 6 quilts in it. There's no way I'm giving a discount on that. I do give $100 for every 1,000 quilts, 100. No, it's 1,000. So at 7,000 quilts, I gave $70. But I'm getting up there to where this is getting expensive. But so I don't do discounts, but I do like luck of the draw, depending on what number invoice you are.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So for most of us, the backbone of our business, the very foundation of it, is the edge-to-edge quilting. Do you have a variety of prices on that, and why?
Not all edges are the same. There's a difference in density. There's a difference in detail. If it's very detailed, I just did an edge that took 2 hours across a king size quilt, long time. So no, I have several prices.
How many prices on edge to edge?
I actually have 4. We all know there's some that you almost feel guilty for charging for. They're so simple, like, oh, I just started it, it's already done. But then we have some that are very detailed and take a long time.
So it's a lot based on pattern choice then?
Oh, definitely. For me, it is. It's based on pattern choice.
Well, mine goes not by pattern choice, but by density, because we all know you can take a very open design and bring it down. That meander can have 2-inch gaps, or I have one customer that always wants it at 1/4 of an inch, no lie, and she loves it. I do have a breakdown for omitting quilting over things.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so obstacles, I call them. And one price for 5 or less obstacles, and another price for more than 5 obstacles. And that's in an overall design.
Well, and I always say it's only a true edge when it is the same pattern repeated over and over. The minute they say, but I don't want quilting here, but I want, that's when we enter at least semi-custom. So edge to edge, same thing, straight across, all the way down. And when but enters, then that's when we change the pricing.
And obstacles, they don't have to just be places you need to omit. Things like
Prairie points.
Yeah, prairie points.
Sequins,
bunched up seams where you can't go over them. sometimes you'll get a quilt where they didn't sew the blocks together fully and they'll be coming apart because of their sewing machine tension is bad. And so there's all kinds of, what do you guys do for that? I was interested in what do you call the extra fee for that? That's a hard.
Well, additional services is a whole category. For the most part, if something is open, we baste it shut with the long arm and then hand close it afterwards. And I don't charge for that unless it's excessive.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a whole host of additional services.
Yes, that is true. Sometimes you get quilts that are pressed beautifully, and sometimes you get them that look like they just came out of the dryer and sat there overnight.
I had a customer once that didn't own an iron.
Yes.
Oh, ouch! I don't press quilts. That's one of the things I don't do. But for my additional services, I have adding muslin to the side of the backing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Squaring a backing.
I do that automatically, free on everything. Back seams.
Mm-hmm.
Matching a backing seam is a higher cost.
Exactly.
Repair, if we know ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Binding. Any of you charge binding?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of those places I actually charge by the hour. Because
that's a good idea.
Depending on the type of binding and the type of quilt, I don't want a linear charge. I just charge by the hour in 15-minute segments.
That's good. I have like 6-7 categories for binding too.
Right, I do too. And depending on machine, on both sides, do you have to piece the binding? Is it, curved edges? All of those things make a difference.
Yeah, double wedding ring.
Yes, they take a long time to bind.
The price keeps going up on that.
Well, it's sort of like I said on custom earlier, binding isn't always that difficult, but it is very time consuming. And so again, if everybody wants you to do binding, you're probably not charging enough. They should have to go, ooh, well, all right, go ahead.
Unless you really like to bind quilts, right? There's people out there that love to bind quilts.
I do love binding. I like binding, but it still takes time.
It does.
And I'm still not doing other things. So that is, and when people say to me, it's not that hard to do binding, I understand, but it is time consuming and, we all have to make choices.
And that's one of the benefits of doing an edge to edge is that you can be binding and then doubling your profit at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the other things? Do you guys charge for thread changes?
More than, yes.
Yeah, I have thread categories. I charge, I have a process for everything, why are you surprised? I charge per square yard, but it's a different charge for edge to edge for custom with 1-2 colors, and then it goes up. And so I have different charges for thread as well. And then you get into dense background fills, and that price goes up because more thread goes in the bucket for the wastebasket than goes into the quilt.
It does. I think it's interesting. You have so many machines and you take care of so many quilts every year that you've been very analytical about and serious about making money at your job. And you have to be, otherwise what's the point?
I put 4 kids through college. And you could do it washing floors, you just have to wash a lot of floors.
Right. But I appreciate that, all the analyzation that you put into, I find it odd. Sometimes many people set pricing just picking a number out of the air. And I don't understand that. You have to put some thought into it if you really intend to make it a successful business.
And I
That
think
is really true. And one of the things that I think is really smart and wise that you tell quilters, Georgia, when they're taking your classes from you is that it's not their job to make quilting affordable.
Right. And I think it's hard because most quilters are nice people. We're nice people. We like people. And we feel almost guilty. And saying, oh, $400, no, it's not fair. We have to be good to ourselves.
Well, and there are times where you literally give a good price break for an emotional reason.
Exactly.
It happens.
Yeah.
Well, that's because we are small business owners, and that's a privilege that we have, that we can do that because I have a person and she does only charity quilts for people, and I don't do it for free, but I do her quilting cheaper because of the heart she has to give, and I'm happy to be a part of it, even though I'm not recognized as that, but I do honor that in her. But the beauty of a small business. When, we talked about raising prices earlier, when I want to raise prices, one thing I do, I don't make big announcements, but I will almost always have at least 10 designs in the edge category that will stay at the other price. They're easy, they're quick, easy, and it allows people to stay in that price range if they want, though they hardly ever do. They usually go up because they want what I can do in other categories.
Yeah, raising prices, because I break everything down and like you said, analyze it, I can raise just my custom prices. And by charging per square yard, I can do finer increments. When you're charging per inch, you got to take that decimal point out quite a ways, where I can add a quarter onto something. If I want to charge everybody across the board an increase, I can raise my setup fee. And we've all seen it recently, thread and batting has gone up. So I charge for those separately, and I will raise that accordingly. So raising prices is just part of doing business. I analyze prices twice a year, and I generally raise once a year, and I never tell anybody.
I don't announce.
Coming to me, price should not be the first consideration. I give a quality product, fast turnaround, easy access, and I don't even tell them the price till that's the absolute last thing we do.
I agree. That's how I feel. And it's not that I'm trying to keep a dark secret. It'll be there, but I don't make that the announcement of, hey, guess what? My prices went up. So no phone calls, no announcements. It just goes up. But I do try to keep a category for those who just can't go up. But it doesn't hurt me because it's the simplest, easiest designs, that I will have picked out.
What do you call that?
Well, I've called it lots of things: bargain buster, super special, and I don't do it all the time, but there were a couple of times when I made a little bit more drastic changes because I flat out realized, especially when it came to custom, I wasn't making any money. It was ridiculous. And, analyzing and going, I can't do this anymore. And a lot of it came about because, Paige, you said you found customers bringing you the custom and taking edge to edge somewhere else. And I felt like I actually was subsidizing my custom in my brain because they bring me edge to edge. Well, when that started changing, I realized I could no longer subsidize my custom. And I'm not sure that it's even fair to do that to edge in reality. So there have been a couple of times I made a little more drastic change because I probably wasn't pricing appropriately ahead of time, but you don't want to give people I
love the way you said you subsidized custom.
Oh,
because I think that's a great way to think of it.
And And I think that's what a lot of people do. Oh, they bring me all their edge to edge. And you'll find, I remember one lady, I said something to her and she said, oh, well, so-and-so is 20 minutes away and charges $10 less on an edge to edge. And that's when I realized, stop it.
Yes.
It's not doing my business any favors.
And you have to be willing to let people walk out the door.
Mhm. I agree.
Mhm.
You can't be everything to everybody, and that I have a hard time with.
I do too. You guys have almost talked me out of my volume discount now.
I do. And it is hard. Like I said, quilters are nice people and we care about our customers and we care about their product. But, sometimes it comes down, sometimes people bring you a double wedding ring and as much as you want to do custom on it, they flat out can't afford it. It's not in their budget. And I know quilters who won't put an edge to edge on and will do custom for an edge to edge price.
Yeah, semi-custom, right, Deanne?
Yeah.
And that double wig.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways to work around it, but in the end, I can't be in business if I just want to give my work away. I can't.
And I think what Paige said earlier was that she has a business software that she uses so that she can track it. How many of you all use one of those? So,
If you're going to be a business, you might as well act like one right from the get-go.
Mhm.
right. And it helps you know your prices and to be able to change. I know that we were talking about our additional charges like backing and batting.
Mhm.
Mine is adjusted every time I purchase it because the purchase price is different.
Exactly.
Fortunately, threads remain the same, but I carry a whole bunch of different kinds of threads. So
My threads have just gone up, the
Yeah.
costs. And it depends where you're getting them from, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we also right now are having difficulty sometimes getting some of the products that we normally sell. And so I know that at the beginning of COVID, all of a sudden I couldn't get solid colors. And so I had to then end up buying more expensive fabric for backings and such because that's what was available.
Mhm.
And so I needed to know my prices and charge appropriately. And everybody understood. Nobody balked at it.
Mhm.
Well, because it's happening in every area of our lives right now. But it comes down, I like that Paige analyzes, twice a year. I do it at least once a year and kind of have a little business meeting where what worked, what didn't work, and I think until you're willing to be real about whether you're making money, real about whether you're giving good value, it's hard to be a money-making business until you really sit down and spend some time analyzing.
Yeah, you need to make your decisions on facts, not just how
Yes.
you feel things are going.
Exactly.
You need some numbers in there.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can be very surprised at what you get. I remember the first time I really started being serious about timing, and it was kind of shocking sometimes at how little money per hour I was making.
And there are other things that we have to pay for in a business that we need to recoup through our pricing.
Mhm.
And part of what I have done with analyzing, I said I raise my prices once a year, but by looking at my bottom line in the middle of the year, I find that now I have to start suggesting something different because they will take our suggestions. So I will suggest something that's going to make me more money first.
Mhm.
But we're not trying to take away from the customer. We're just trying to make it better for both of us so that
Yes.
they get what they're looking for and we can afford to be in business.
Yes. So if you think, oh, this would be nice as a custom, then the back of your mind says, yes, but it would be just fine as an edge to edge. Then I have to start suggesting the edge to edge first.
Very true.
And we have a lot of beautiful edge to edge patterns that, quite frankly, on a lot of quilts is going to look just as well. There are times I've taught people out of custom simply because I don't want them to look at it and go, I can't even tell that it's custom.
Right.
More times than I can count. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to do custom. It's just that I don't want them to feel cheated to look at a quilt and go, it looks like edge to edge, because you can't see the design.
Right.
Yeah, the right design, the right thread, the right scale makes something look more custom than the average customer coming in would realize.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Isn't it interesting that us as a group, long arm quilters, all tend to be so caring and loving that we have trouble pricing? You know, it's interesting to me. I mean, it's really a wonderful group of people, but we do have to also take care of ourselves, and that's why it's so important to talk about this. Most businesses, if you look at, would laugh if they had to have conversations of why they need to charge their customers. This is such an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. The appliance repairman could care less. It's like,
right.
Well, here's the bill. Thank you. I'll take the check, and we're out the door. But I think sometimes for me, it was a process to get to that point, to realize that other businesses don't apologize. They don't sit around and try to explain why they're only making $1.89 an hour. And, you know, and I think some of it is we have to know our worth. And what we have invested in equipment, in space, our time, our energy, our expertise, and not be afraid to be able to say, this is what I need to charge.
And isn't it also a great deal because we feel guilty because we love doing it so much? It's so much fun that then you feel guilty for charging, but it's still your work. So it's an interesting.
But aren't we blessed then to be able to get paid for doing our hobby?
What we love. Absolutely.
What we love.
I know, it's what everybody else wants, and we've got it. So we are blessed. Well, I'm going to end this with that note. Thank you, ladies, for chit-chatting about pricing again. And we'll say goodbye to everybody.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
next time.
Bye.